Unit 3 Activity 1 is all about fashion fibers, and this is a lot of information, and depending on what you plan on doing in fashion, if anything, this information is pretty technical, so just bear with me. What I want you to do right now is to make sure that you've watched the Planet Money series that I've linked in the content. The videos are pretty short, like a couple minutes, and there's 5 of them, so estimate it will take you about 10 to 15 minutes to watch the whole thing, and it will really help a lot of the stuff that's to come make sense. So back in the day, all textures were made from natural fibers, but when the Industrial Revolution came along, they figured out how to make artificially created fibers, and they would make these fibers from weird things like natural gas, chemicals, wood pulp, to make these new fibers that don't come from things like cotton or sheep. Regenerated fibers are made from natural substances like wood pulp. So if you have anything in your closet that's made of viscose, acetate, or lyocell, those are all regenerated fibers. So that's a type of manufactured fiber. Synthetic fibers are made from chemicals only, so there's no natural substance as a part of it. Nylon, polyester, and elastane are all synthetic fibers. And one thing that you need to know is that all fibers have a generic name, so they're cotton or wool or whatever, and that refers to the polymer from which they're made. But on your clothes, if you look at the tag, you'll see these generic names on there. Fibers, however, are given a trade name by the company that makes them. So these names are always capitalized, and they are unique to the specific company and the polymer that they're made. So if you see different names with capitalization, don't be scared. It's just the trade name. In regards to the fiber structure, it really depends. It could be very unique, and fiber structure refers to the length, the shape, the density, and the thickness. And depending on the structure, that influences the properties. So there is a job called a textile technologist, and they genetically modify polymers to give things new features. Manufactured fibers can be changed even more than natural fibers. They can be made extremely fine and up to 60 times finer than a human hair. So that's pretty cool, that we can make fibers whatever we want, really. There's also cool things called microencapsulation, and that's when you have a fiber that has other stuff inside of it. So they're playing around with smart garments. So like there might be tights that you wear that contain nicotine patches that will soak into your skin throughout the day. Or you might buy a shirt that has moisturizers micro-encapsulated inside of it. So this is all the future. I'm sure there are jobs that have to do with the fashion industry that haven't been invented yet because the technology isn't there, but it will be there soon. So structures, when we're talking about fiber, we might talk about strength, absorbency, wicking, luster, elasticity. These are all things that explain what a fiber is like. So take a second to pause this video and look at these structures a little bit more closely. Two different types of fibers that I want you to know about are staple and filament. Staple, you can see over here, are little teeny lips of fabric that get spun together into yarn. And filament fibers are longer, so they can be like a kilometer long. So these little flecks, like little fluffs, are fiber. And we can't really identify fiber through sight and touch for the most part. We have to use textile testing to figure out what kind of fiber is which if we don't know. So staple fibers, just to go back, that's the ones that are like this, little splecks of fiber that we weave together. This is called a spun yarn when we do that, and the fibers need to be twisted together. So you can see here we need to twist and tangle them all up so they are one yarn. And all natural fibers like cotton are staple fibers. So these little pieces of cotton, for example, are twisted together to become one yarn. And natural fibers need to be cleaned before you spin them. So you comb them to kind of untangle them, and then you rove them. So basically kind of like a braid where you have this ribbon of fiber and you divide it up into smaller ribbons. like you would split a braid into 3 parts. And then you would take the part of the braid, for example, that little roved part that's divided out, and you would pull and you'd twist it to make it into a single yarn. Sometimes you'll card the yarns. Cards is when you comb them more than once. So you might comb them and then rove them and then comb them and then maybe comb them again, and this happens with higher quality fibers. Manufactured fibers can also be cut into staple lengths, so they can be cut like this. They don't have to be long. And when they do that, it mimics natural fibers like cotton and linen and wool. So they might take a manufactured fiber and cut it to staple lengths. So it's in filament length originally, and then they'll cut it to staple length so it will better mimic cotton. Other yarns, we've talked about filament. Filament are generally manufactured. The only natural filament fiber is silk, and it's unraveled from cocoons to form a yarn. I think I've got some videos in the content about silk. It's pretty cool. Filament fibers are smoother, they have more luster, so they're shiny. And if you want them not to be smooth and shiny, you need to texture them through either heat, chemicals, or machinery. Texturing can also do other things other than just aesthetic. It could increase the stretch, it can add bulk, so make it thicker, it can make it softer, it can improve wash and wear. So there's lots of reasons to texture a filament fiber once you have it. Ply yarns. Ply yarns are when 2 or more yarns are twisted together. This makes them thicker and stronger, so you get those big cable knit sweaters. Novelty yarns are a type of ply yarn, and it's when 2 or more yarns of different size or type are twisted together. So maybe a natural wool with manufactured wool, for example. And blended yarns. Blended yarns are ply yarns, but they're also made from 2 or more different fibers. So you might have cotton and polyester mixed together, or cotton and wool mixed together. So it will be a blend. If you have any allergies, it's really important to know if your clothes are being made with blended yarns. Like, let's say you're allergic to polyester, you want to check your cotton and make sure it's 100% cotton, not a blended yarn. Constructing a fabric. So most fabric in the industry is created by weaving yarns together. That means that some are going lengthwise and some are going from top to bottom, like crosses. And different patterns will give you different properties. Warp knitting uses several yarns. This is an industrial process, and it has to be done by a machine. It can't be done by knitting. So warp knitting is done with manufactured filament yarns that are kilometers long. Weft knitting is like what we do with a scarf, but it can also be manufactured. It can be done by hand or by a machine, and it uses 1 thread. So jersey knit is the most common weft knit, and it's used for t-shirts and sweaters, dresses, and stockings. It's a very popular knit. Rib knits are also pretty popular. If you look at the sleeve of a sweater, it will probably have a rib knit. It makes it more elastic, and there's a good video in the content for that if you need to watch it. Non-woven, felted, and bonded fabrics are things that aren't spun. Wool, polyester, and viscose aren't actually spun. Fibers are layered and they form a web, and then these fibers are bonded together. So you can see all the fibers here, and then they're going to tangle them together and kind of melt them together depending on what they're doing, and it will create a fiber. So felt made from wood is the oldest type of non-woven fabric, and the fiber is tangled by beating it and rubbing it and squeezing it while it's wet to make felt. And you can bond with other fabrics. Now that we have good technology, you can bond things to other fabrics or vinyl or clear films. Like a rubberized diaper, for example, would be a fabric on one side and then a waterproof material on the other. And this gives it some sort of specialized surface. Fabric finishing, we're almost done. When everything's all said and done, fabrics are called gray goods. They need to be cleaned and finished again. And finished means it's a process that helps make the fiber better. So finishes can be permanent or temporary. They could be physical, biological, or chemical. There's lots of different fabric finishes. So here are some examples. In the effort of time, I want you to just read through these and pause the video. So it's really important if you're working in the industry to choose the right fabric for this thing that you want to wear. You wouldn't want to choose satin for a bathing suit. You wouldn't want to choose